Excellent, thanks. Is the mic working? You guys hear me okay? Awesome. And for those of you on the internet, the room is completely packed. So you're lucky you're watching it on with us. This will be a very serious talk, by the way. I know several people in the audience. They will likely be heckling. Those of you that I don't know, feel free to heckle as well. But today I'm going to be talking about hunting for suspicious browser extensions using some data analytic, data science, whatever buzzword you want to use, techniques. This is a little bit about me. I do threat intelligence at Box. For those of you that haven't heard of Box, we're a cloud content management company. We store people's files. We help them with workflows. I run a website. It's probably of like late 1990s GeoCities called secrepo.com. I never claimed to be an HTML author. Got some security-related data there. I'm happy to host more. I'm happy to take links. Obviously enjoy data analysis, which is what I'm doing here. You can find me on Twitter and GitHub under Sushi. And then I had to add this last one in, but I consider myself a scruffy, both because I have a beard and because of my approach to ML and AI, kind of just a more hackish engineering approach. So I sat through, Hiram's not here, otherwise I was going to tease him a little bit. I sat through his talk earlier. He's way smarter than me. So I apologize for all of you that have been through his talk and mine, but I think we'll make it through. But overall, why should you care about Chrome extensions? I mean, for the most part, they're a huge source of risk. Enterprises that nobody's really paying attention to. They're in the news. People like to either find abandoned ones and kind of take them over on GitHub and maybe re-upload them, or they like to create new ones that look similar to existing ones to maybe social engineer or entice users to download them. And then when they do, well, what happens? They steal credentials, they coin mine, right? Huge, huge problems if you're dealing with an enterprise and you want to keep it safe. Most places don't want to leak credentials. So in this talk, kind of talk through how can you find them, what are some of the telltale signs that might be interesting of either something that is malicious or something that's suspicious that's worth digging into and asking some more questions around. Hopefully, you can take these techniques back, you can apply them, you can find cool things, you can shift the policy at your organizations to really kind of begin to shape the perception internally to the org of like, hey, this is a real thing that we need to pay attention to. So most importantly, we've got a workflow and tools. If you want to reproduce this work, you can. It's pretty simple. I was talking to somebody else about it earlier today. Basically, all you need to do is get and these are kind of the steps that we followed, so I'll go through some of the other ones. But basically, get the Chrome extensions that are in your environment. One of the things that we thought was important, we had like an accurate account of how many were on each system and which ones were on each system. One, so we could go back and find them pretty easily. And two, so we could really kind of begin to understand the distribution of how these things were in the environment. But basically, you go get the ID, take the ID, you go to the Chrome Web Store, you find it, you download it, you pull it apart. Then you can wind up building some data structures, and we'll go through that in a second. The other thing that I wind up using a little bit is your Excavator. It's a service by Duo. It's free. They give you risk scores. It works pretty well. This is all done in Python. I'm not the best Python coder, but it works. I use Graphistry, which I love. You don't have to use Graphistry, so all the ones with the asterisks are things I use that provide. This is kind of just an overview of the data. So throughout this, we'll be talking roughly about 2,000 Chrome extensions, which to me is mind-boggling. And any analyst can hunt through and read something malicious or suspicious. Specifically, we'll be focusing on about 1,700 of them, which are interesting, and we'll kind of talk about again. It's a lot of things. We'll deep dive into permissions as well, so that way you guys can understand which ones might be more interesting than others, which ones you should care about, what they mean, a bunch of different unique ones. And so the long tail, right? Like most of the Chrome extensions in an environment likely exist on only one or two machines, versus everybody have the same one. I also added the picture so that way you guys would take this slide seriously, and it actually looked like I did some work. It has nothing to do with the presentation, though. So one of the first ways that I was like, well, like maybe we can hunt our way through this, and let's see what's going on. Let's clean the data. What's going on? This is the data that we started with, this simple JSON structure. You can kind of see a little sneak preview of permissions, where the Chrome extension live, blah, blah, blah. Not too super exciting. So my first thought was like, hey, why don't we look through all the Chrome extensions that don't have a name on the Google Play Store and have no permissions set, right? Request nothing from the web browser. So they just kind of exist. There are 300 of them in this data set, which is insane. So if you think that you can now you know, because you can have it in an enterprise, but you can also create an extension on the Google app or the Google Chrome store that has no permissions and no name, and Google's OK with that. Yeah, sure. So I was pretty surprised. So my next thought was, hey, wait a second. Let's trust the internet. Certainly, right, everybody who uses the Chrome Web Store, they're going to put on ratings, and they're going to know what's going on. So I could probably use it as a whitelist, right? Like, I'm going to trust everything with a 4-star and above rating and more than 50,000 users that have marked it as a 4-star, because it's going to be great. So you wind up with this list. Sorry if it's a little hard to see. But really, my first, like, what the heck is going on is there's one called Popup blocker for Chrome, Popper blocker with one P. So it's extra legit. And then this other one is my favorite, Ola free VPN proxy unblocker. Also super great sounding and something I'm sure everybody wants in their organization. So it turns out, never trust the internet. Shocker. Even something really simple, like this amazing visualization that took me days to create, you can find interesting things by asking very simple. And now we'll kind of just dig through a few random ones. Yeah, you guys can see that OK? Just to kind of get a feel for what they look like and maybe some of their ratings. This is a very popular extension that a lot of people run. It's called Honey. Anybody use Honey? I use it because I love saving money. But you know that Honey can phone home to like websites if it's choosing and intercept your requests. Good times, right? Actually similar to the Popper blocker with 1P. So from a high level behavioral, like these and then like free VPN unblocker and it can look at all of your different web traffic coming to and from. It can access anything on any URL. It can connect to different URLs. It can look at all your cookies, because certainly nothing sensitive is in those. Permissions, a little bit more. Some of CR Excavator, it wasn't really kind of what I wanted, but it gave me a really good starting place. So definitely shouts out to them. Mark some as critical, and you're thinking, well, like what's critical? So you've got these two I'll kind of point out. That's essentially any protocol on any website or IP address. So FTP, WebSockets, right? That's good. Why wouldn't you want your web browser having access to all of that within itself? Video capture, audio capture, legitimate uses here. Yeah, so you can kind of see again some high-level ones, and these will kind of play into a couple different graphs. And then as a sidebar, if you wind up using CR Excavator, it actually uses these to generate some of its risk score. And we'll kind of look at that in a second too. Then going from here, I mean, you'll kind of notice too, kind of pointed out the ones over here on the left, that's like any protocol, any URL, any IP address. Then on the right, you can kind of see specific ones. So file, whack, right? Like any file on your machine. Yeah. But there's more of those, right? Like it can request access to specific sites. So one of the things is my favorite Stack Overflow question. The guy was like, Chrome extension, phone home to this arbitrary website. And they're like, well, you just add it to permissions, and then you write these like 3 lines of JavaScript. So that's awesome. It's good if you're doing static analysis on these permissions. One, because, well, it has these kind of C2 or phone home domains or whatever domains they're requesting access to in them. So we can begin to look at those. So looking at that over the entire data set, the 1,800 different domains, URLs, just from these extensions, which to me was mind-blowing. I did not expect anything that big. About 1,500 of them were unique, HTTP, and then not looking at the blatant wildcard, other ones that what they're doing, but they're doing Chrome specific. And then I kind of had another random thought, like, hey, what if we looked for all the ones that had a specific port in it, or just any port? And some of these look bizarre, and then localhost? I really want my Chrome extension doing something with a service on my system. So Kanye's upset. And now we're really going to get into the meat of this presentation. This is a Stepbrothers reference. If anybody loves the movie, like, we put white out on a bee. So yeah, we here had all of our data scientists at work developing the best algorithm anybody has ever seen to figure out what permissions were most common in this data set. We developed a word cloud. I'm just kidding. So kind of going back the other way, if we overlay these permissions on the graphs that we were looking at earlier, once again, kind of our 50,005 cutoff, you can really see there's some shady permissions there. So this is kind of speaking to the user count versus either Chrome Web Store rating. You can see mostly everybody has unique browser extensions, and then the other one's similar layout, except that one is, and I'm sure I'm going to get yelled at by Jay on this one, just because it looks different, but you want a lower, better than a Google high score. Different. But anyway, here's a data scientist, and this is how I feel actually going to talk about it. A little bit sexier than stat scatter plots, puns from. So this. So one of the supervised learning, I can take a look at all these Chrome extensions. I'm going to take a real naive approach. So my 3 dimensions. I'm going to do meat first, and that was a. So went back to the drawing a little bit more, and choosing a different algorithm. This is using optics. A little bit. I felt the results are a little bit more intuitive. I thought they described the data a little bit better. And one thing really stood out. So kind of I'll do a quick jog back. You see these lines in between the clusters. Some in this graph as well. You guys can see that. That was weird to me. Basically what I did was the clusters have a number, they have a label, and then each node is labeled by its name. So we're going to go on a brief tangent. Stop. Tangent time. And I'm not going to apologize for it. So in this data set, there are 4 extensions called Kindle Cloud Reader. Got multiple JSON formatter, multiple JSON viewer, all the way through. This was crazy. I figured, the Chrome Web Store would say, hey, you get a unique name, you get a unique name, everybody gets a unique name. It's just not the case. And that's just kind of what they look like. You can really just see just the ones that were here. That's my tentative visualization. So you can see, like, oh yeah, there really is a whole bunch of them in all these. And you get the publisher and the number of votes. Oh, and you get the same JSON, different publisher. Oh, and a third. Second. So not only do you not have to have unique names on the Chrome Web Store, but different people can create Chrome extensions with the same name. So now you've got this whole other area that's worth digging into and worth hunting through in your enterprise, because all of these extensions could be, right, potentially, some attacker trying to engineer some of your users into downloading a malicious extension to leak credentials to mine Bitcoin or whatever else. But the other thing that I thought was really interesting, and sorry if this is a little harder to read, here's two that are named the same, auto replay for YouTube. So we have one auto replay for YouTube that wants access to all of your web requests to and from YouTube and all your different tab information and cookies. And oh, but wait, there's this other wildcard that for YouTube doesn't run it. Fair enough. It's embedded, running off of YouTube and not off. Kind of interesting that you even have same name and different different permissions. So Samuel Jackson is very displeased. And now we've got a little bit more. And I apologize with it. It's actually pretty tolerable outside. But we're still going to go to more machine learning because that's way more thing resemble. Oh, pleasant. Maybe it was only two. We're going somewhere better. So then I saying, well, the number of or other, it's not super interesting. Basically what I did here was took all the URI ones out and looked at all the unique different permissions and then one hot encoded them and then clustered those and kind of cluster on behavior. In other words, like what are these extensions requesting that might be super interesting that I would want to know about and actually give me some good results. So here are some that were in the same cluster. And you can see obviously the extension permissions are pretty similar, but they're essentially solving different business problems. Do I have, I don't know, is my Wikipedia extension doing the same thing as my free VPN blocker extension? And the answer is like, yeah, they're real similar, which is kind of about it. Being able to hunt through and being able to understand, like, hey, what's going on from a behavioral perspective in these extensions versus just looking high level at App Store ratings and whatnot is super useful. The other reason too, I'm focusing a lot on permissions is I didn't want to parse JavaScript code and try to figure out what they were legitimately doing, but there's a bunch we can do there as well. And this worked pretty well. This led to some really good insights, but kind of felt like there was a little bit more. So the idea was to turn that on its head. So we looked at, hey, let's look at behavior and see if we're solving business problems or if there's multiple things going on in the environment that are essentially maybe doing the same thing. This one was kind of like, hey, what if we've got, you know, like one extension named XY, the other one was ABC for whatever. So kind of solving these same problems, but with different extensions. So the idea here is maybe we can align on, hey, this is our gold set of extensions to solve problem A. This is B and this is C. So we can kind of delve in and see what the users are doing. So we just use. And the other thing this was really nice at was sometimes some of the malicious ones will be like a couple characters off or something like that. So this will kind of begin to lump all those in different clusters. And this, for, I don't know, roughly 200 clusters. But quickly, 700 of any. Extensions, and it's mind-boggling different websites that they want to function off, want to have access to, and that they can talk to, right? So now you can really begin to hunt through these extensions and say, man, like, hey, people want to with YouTube, but really doing the right thing. Kind of looking the other way, see decisions. So all that was awesome. These password management, we would use it in enterprise. So that was super, super enlightening. And that's pretty good. So I think we're pretty close to like question time. So with, oh, perfect. Awesome. So in closing, right, the idea was, hey, and things. And we can do really simple clustering that maybe is not great, but we have connecting lines that really led to like, hey, wait a second, we have different ends on the Chrome store with the same name, different publisher, and it's a real easy path for social engineering my users. Kind of profiled or clustered by behavior, in quotes, because it wasn't actually JavaScript, right? It was just kind of the permissions, the things that the extensions are going to look at. And then finally, flipped it on its head, like, are we exposing ourselves to unnecessary risk by saying, hey, we've got all these extensions solving a business case, but they do it in vastly different ways and potentially open us up in vastly different laser types. With that, go back to kind of where
If you have questions, please raise your hand, and then I'll bring the mic over.
It's about the temperature. I'll take the slide down.
Hi, great talk. I wanted to ask, do you also try to look or inspect whether it's with some kind of machine learning, any kind of machine learning model or mechanism, or in another way at the actual code, so the JavaScript that's in these extensions, and whether that JavaScript is malicious or not, or try to do something malicious or not?
No, we didn't want to do that. Didn't really feel like parsing through or trying to kind of deal with all the things that are that you try to, or I guess deal with all the things you run into doing code analysis. One of the things we did do was all of the domains and IP addresses that we pulled out of the permissions, where you can do simple checks like Google Safe Browsing, thread feeds, that kind of stuff. Led to some interesting results.
So you mentioned that there's the potential to publish multiple extensions with exactly the same name. Is there a way to identify the legitimate ones when I'm scanning, like via GUID or something like that?
I haven't found a really good way to do it, other than just that table that I had, just show me the duplicates and then just manually flipping through them. It was fairly easy. Especially with something like JSON formatter. I don't know who the authoritative JSON formatter source is. So that's kind of where looking at the duplicates, understanding the permissions, and kind of making a business choice. Like, oh, this one seems, just based off permissions, to do the right thing. And then I guess if you're on the filter grant, you can put out all of them because you.
Hey, Mike, when you pulled those URLs out of the, I'm assuming the JavaScript that was in the compressed files?
Yeah, so the Chrome extension, it's a tar GZ.
Yeah.
You pull it down, you expand it, there's a manifest, and the manifest, I can go back to
It's got JavaScript.
Yeah, it's got JavaScript.
Yeah. In some of the malicious extensions that I've been looking at, the URLs are obfuscated. They're like in 15 different places.
Like in the code?
In the code.
Okay.
Did you ever, whatever technique you used, did you ever see that? So you wouldn't be able to pull those out, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if they're not in the permissions for this analysis, we wouldn't have looked at them. Yeah, we didn't try to go through the route of either executing JavaScript or trying to
Okay.
or anything. Cool. But it's a really good point. But I would think for those, they're likely going to have to request a permission like this, and to me, that's scary.
Hi. So you mentioned Jamf in the beginning, but I don't really see it mentioned anywhere in the presentation other than the first few slides. How'd you use Jamf?
Yeah. So Jamf was essentially used for that very first bullet point, the get data from the environment. It was an easy way to get what extensions are installed on a machine in a Mac environment.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So if you've got Windows, you could probably use GPO or PowerShell or whatever it is. Yeah. Tania or somebody.
Hi. Good talk.
Thanks.
One question. Do you have any comment on...
Oh, man.
Is it on? Yeah.
I know we're at the party section where you've already finished the talk and I can interrupt.
I have very important questions to answer.
Please. Can you do that with your mouthful of popcorn?
Yes. Who can't?
All right. Yeah, I was going to ask, do you have any comments on permissions requested by content brokers extensions, like AdBlock, NewBlock Origin? By design, I think they require everything in order to inspect the traffic. So anything suspicious there, or?
No, you're right. They do require a crazy amount and number of permissions, and the ones that they request are insane. But to me, that's one of those really prime examples as a business looking at risk. You should go, hey, either we're going to block ads via whatever DNS solution or our proxy, or if we're going to allow browser extension, this is the one you guys have to use because it's way easier to monitor one than 20 different ones.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. And there's a bunch of, so somebody said there's a bunch of functionality in Chrome on Windows and Mac where you can explicitly allow or deny certain permissions or certain extension IDs. There's some manageability here as well.
All right. Any other questions? Okay. Please help me in thanking Mike.
Cool.